Hey, Fabulites. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Courage. That's what I have to say about Underground. So I guess my question is, where can you be more courageous in your life? Where are you being courageous in your life? Where are you celebrating courage in your life? This is my review recap of Underground Season 2, Episode 6, Minty. Arminita, was that Harriet Tubman's first name? Please like, comment, subscribe, and stick around if you want to hear my quick thoughts, because the main thing that I want to say to you, if you have not already seen the episode at least twice, is go watch the episode. Watch it once and then watch it again. If you don't watch this series, please watch the series. It is so powerful and so important. And I just want to really commend and give thanks for and celebrate and acknowledge the courage and the beauty and the power of Mama Harriet and all of the people then and now who, moved in courage and moved in boldness and help us move in courage and move in boldness and help us and model for us courage and beauty and power and strength and focus and rebelliousness. And I want to thank the production up and down that it took to create and put a monologue, y'all. I mean, for the whole show, it was basically Harriet Tubman's character speaking. They wrote a monologue for the woman. The actress did that thing. What TV show, who does that? What TV show have you seen where the whole episode is a monologue? There might have been 3 minutes, 4 minutes tops of other people talking here or there. Because there was one point where she asked someone a question, what does this scar on my head look like? He said a bird. And then she went back to talking. Then there was another point where she mentioned John Brown. He's not a friend. And then Elizabeth, and she was there also, but that's basically her only line. She said something like, we came here to hear Harriet talk, so let's listen to Harriet talk. And then Harriet went back to talking. So just a monologue on a TV show. This ain't PBS, great monologues of all time. This is our action adventure TV show called Underground that we watch, and they had a whole episode of just a monologue. It's like we traveled someplace to hear Harriet Tubman talk, and we got to hear Harriet Tubman talk. A fiction TV series. So Misha Green and Joe Pekoski and WGN and Aisha Hines and all of the ancestors who moved things and made things happen. Ashe, we give thanks, celebration, hallelujah. Powerful, beautiful, courageous work. Acknowledge that. The actor and the audience. I mean, when I heard, I started to get wind, I guess last week, that this was going to be like a one episode where she was just talking. And I'm like, how is that going to work? Is the audience going to be able? And then as I'm watching it, I'm like, well, I'm coming back next week because I love the show. And I just love the show that much more, having seen this happen on TV in real time. I mean, I am more committed to the show now than ever. Let's get married, Underground. Let's get married. But, from what I could see on Twitter or whatever, I don't think that anyone was lost or turned off. And I just think that's amazing and brilliant and courageous and powerful. And I just think this is just wonderful. So commendations to the audience. This whole thing was just glorious, fabulous. So I don't even really know. I mean, that's my review. That's my recap. It's glorious. It's fabulous. Go watch it. Go watch it again. Go tell somebody else to watch it. Watch it with them. So the show opened with, we opened with seeing Miss Harriet Tubman get ready to give this talk. It seems that she gave the talk in an auction hall. There seemed to be an audience of about 30 or 40 people there. The lighting was very, it was dark. It's like you could see light from the outside, but there wasn't a lot of light coming in from the inside. Shadowy. But we open up by seeing scars on her back as she's, putting on her corset and getting ready and prepared and, prayed up for her presentation to this group of abolitionists, this group of friends. And, it just, one thing about this series, because we've seen it a couple of times, just, lashes on people's backs or scars on people's backs, some of them raw, some of them not raw. And, there was a time and a place, and there probably is a time and a place now where that's just, normal. And that's awful. It's just an awful testament of awfulness. It's an awful testament of awfulness. So yeah, that was that. That's how we open. I said the lighting is shadowy. There are 30, 40 folks in the audience, and it does appear to be an auction hall. So here's a free woman who had formerly been considered property, by herself perhaps, and there are probably some people who now consider her property, but she's in this auction hall. She doesn't have a number on her, no lot number on her, but it kind of brings our attention to the fact that this human being has been and is considered property by some other people. And so I just have some of the things that I was able to capture without so many things that she said I thought were just very powerful. When I was listening, I was wondering if this was actually one of Harriet Tubman's speeches or a compilation of her speeches that they had pulled together. But, I haven't done more research yet, but in the credits, at least, it says written by Pulaski and Green. So we're going to assume that, they wrote it based on their research, and they wrote the hell out of it. Woo! I'm telling you. But anyway, some of the things, bondage attacks the senses. And she kind of goes on to describe it. But then she says, like all your teeth are made of copper. And I could just I felt that. Every eye turned down to the ground away from the horror. She goes through all of the senses, but those were the two that, I didn't realize, and I'm assuming it's true, I don't know, but that Harriet Tubman took her mom's name. My mother uses her mother's name as a stage name. And she talks about her mother who worked in the house, who moved through the space like a spirit. And that's kind of how I feel that Ernestine moves through the space. And, maybe it's moving through the space like a spirit. Sometimes but that invisibility thing, sometimes, even when you don't want to be invisible, you are invisible. Harriet says that the character says that she learned to love the pain and took it as an opportunity for defiance. So she trained herself not to cry out in pain. And it felt like freedom to her. And then she talked about stealing some sugar off a table during an argument and running down the street and feeling that sugar melt on her tongue and saying how that felt like freedom. And she was mischievous. She was known as a mischievous child. And that was a pride point, knowing that they didn't own her spirit. She says, the character in the monologue, it said, ain't no negotiation on freedom. See past all you know and believe in something better. She believed she was supposed to be free like a bird. Freedom fire can't be stoked in another, and embers ain't enough. You have to have a fire that's ready to scorch anything in its path. And y'all, it's not going to be direct quotes, but just some of these sentiments, some of these ideas, and just the power of the language was just, woo. And then she took a step off the stage as she referenced her first step off the plantation. And I think I kind of expected her to say that first step was the hardest step. But she said all the steps were hard, not just the first step. And she said that when she got to the land of freedom, she looked at her hands to see if they looked different, if she was a different person. But she wasn't, and there was no one to welcome her into the land of freedom. She was a stranger in a strange land. She talked about the dark months, December, January, February, being times, and we know in the series that Rosalie is planning to go back at Christmas to get her people. But the dark months being times when people are more likely to be inside, more likely to be huddled up around the fireplace, and less, more likely to be able to slip across state lines. So she would work during, throughout the year. And then in the dark months, she would go and get people. And I guess from the numbers, it seemed like maybe 50 people a year or something like that. And I don't know how many years she did it. But just imagine, 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, 4, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9 people, 10 people. Each of those people is a life and a heart and a spirit, and they're connected to other people, and they have dreams and they have hopes and they have stories, and 30, 40, 50, and that's just 1 year. I think that's Mama Harriet. Ashe, thank you. And thank all the Mama Harriets, named and unnamed, known and unknown, seen and unseen, and maybe people who, helped along the way, and continue to help along the way. When Mama Harriet mentions Captain Brown, it upsets the crowd, and then Elizabeth settles them down. When she mentions war, that upsets the crowd too. She says that war is nothing but a prayer. It's a plea. It's a hope. It's a desire to believe that there's something better. And she says slavery ain't just a sin. It's a state of war. Slavery ain't just a sin. It's a state of war. So when people are enslaved, they are prisoners of war. They're on the receiving end of an act of war. And so for you to respond to war against you is not savagery. That's humanity. That's the height of humanity. She talks about a nationwide conspiracy working hard to make it seem the way of things. Now, she specifies that the Southern slaveholders were trying to, but I feel like it was, like she said initially, a nationwide conspiracy. How many Yankees, she says, do we walk by wearing petticoats and suit coats made from cotton that's bloody the hands of half this country? When we're using our cell phones and when we're buying diamonds, whose blood is a part of that process, whose life has been, taken, stolen, devalued in order to create, these things that we enjoy. And, we feel like we're separated from them. Oh, I'm not engaged in that activity, but you are. You're part of it. You're the other side of the coin. The one side is, getting the free, cheap labor, and the other side is consuming the products. Woo! Woo, she was dropping some knowledge. She was y'all did the damn thing, underground. Y'all did it, and just commendations. Beating back against those trying to kill you, that's hope, that's prayer, that's believing life. And not just lives, but systems. We can't, when she counted up all the, 50 people this year, that's 50 lives, but the systems still remain the same and things have gotten worse, she says. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's not just the life, it's the system that supports the bullshit that has to be torn down. You can't just take, you're not changing enough, just taking one life here, 50 lives there. It's the system still remains and continues to grow and thrive. She says our work is good, it's important, but it ain't enough. We free, so it seemed like enough to us. Anything we do seem like plenty. But there ain't no negotiations or freedom. There ain't no negotiations on freedom, big or small. There ain't no compromises or no half measures that mean anything, not to those in bondage. A country built on bodies will always need more for the slaughter. She says, my story ain't over and it ain't my own. That's right. It's all of our stories, and it continues. She talks about what she learned from her mom, but then she talks about daddy lessons. She doesn't use that language, but hey, Beyonce, hey, girl, hey. on tree felling, how to fall a tree. And she says her daddy taught her that no tree can best an axe in the right hands. It don't matter how old it is. It don't matter how big it is. It don't matter how long it's been there. If you got an axe and you know what you're doing, you can tear down a tree. And she also talked about her daddy teaching her about seed planting, and that an acorn gets swallowed up and cracked open and goes through violence and destruction, and it must be completely undone in order for new life to emerge. And then, the last part of the piece, she looks right in the camera, and, there's a reference to, so the whole theme of the season has been citizen or soldier. We can't just be a citizen. We have to be a soldier, then and now. So, there's a part where she looks into the camera. But just the cinematography, the lighting, the writing, the acting, the boldness and the courageousness is just woo. Woo, Underground. Go see the episode. Go watch it again. Thank you for being here, liking, commenting, and subscribing. And go watch Underground. Peace.